Hi again. You find me in a different place this week from where I normally am. I'm over in the lovely city of Katowice, getting ready for a course coming up this year. This week I'm talking a bit about the word function, and it's a word I often use. I use it regularly when I'm talking about therapy, anatomy, and I think it's probably one of the single most important words that we have when considering things like, you know, movement, pain, and general day-to-day activity. But it doesn't have a single meaning in terms of what we're considering. I mean, it does have a meaning. You know, if you go to the dictionary and you look it up, you'll find there is a definition of the word function. But it's not really the application that we're thinking of, although, you know, let's play with it anyway. For example, we might term something as functional. We might say a room is functional. A prison cell can be functional, meaning that it has the basic minimum elements of it required to exist. You know, if it has the sofa and a TV and a bathroom or what have you, then we can live in it. It doesn't have to be fancy, top end, lots of frills, lots of expensive appliances. The basic needs have to be there, and anything more is essentially window dressing and potentially surplus to requirements. You know, so therefore it's functional. Now, when we apply this to thinking of us and people and clients, we can think in the same terms. You know, what are the basic requirements or needs that anybody has in order to do what is required day to day? So this definition of function is to suggest or to ask what can be reasonably expected for an individual given their particular circumstance at any given point in time. You know, it's not necessarily about what they want, but what can be reasonably expected to be attained or to achieve. What can be thought of as reasonable also has to include mitigating factors like previous history, current history, general health of somebody, and surgeries and injuries and so on and so forth, and what range of movement they might be carrying at this moment in time or they might have had in the past. Everyone's functional requirement is going to change throughout their life. The things that we want or need to do at the age of 24 are going to be potentially very different to somebody who's, say, at the age of 85 or 90. Now, the activity levels might be similar or the same, but the functional requirement is going to change, and this functional requirement can change sometimes on a day-to-day basis. Am I going to run a marathon at the age of 75? Well, I mean, people do, of course, but no one's going to expect anyone to break a world record. Am I going to be playing first team football for England at the age of 50? And the answer is no, I'm not. My standard of activity might still be high at that age, but we understand that functional range and requirement and capacity is going to change. You've got to bear in mind that the function isn't, you know, a one-way or one-direction street either. Someone might have been a couch potato when they were 25, and now at the age of 50, you know, they're a hill runner. But generally, we can accept that. Along with our outlook on life, our functional requirement is going to change as we age. So for me right now, I need to be able to go out climbing, I want to walk the dog, I want to play football very badly, and be generally active. And I would say that my activity level has perhaps decreased a little over the years, but generally speaking, I would consider myself to be a very active older adult. Now, in 20 years' time, or even 20 weeks' time, depending on the set of circumstances, you know, my functional requirement may well be very different and much less. I will still maybe want to be mobile at the age of 85 or 80, what have you, walk a reasonable distance, live independently, and still have, you know, a full and active life. But if I had a sudden heart attack or a stroke, then those circumstances are going to change. Before I go on, I've got lots of stuff coming up, loads of great materials, lots of videos, so please don't forget, right now, please subscribe and like and do all those things. It helps me so much as far as social media stuff is concerned, I cannot tell you. So go ahead and press that subscribe button, thank you. So anyway, and anybody's individual expectations or judgments of their own function might also be unreasonable, and sometimes it might be the therapist that's trying to push a certain outcome, and therefore the therapist's expectation might be unreasonable, and so somewhere we have to meet in the middle. Have we ever pushed for, trying to polish off that thing that we really wanted to as far as our client is concerned? So if we have a functional situation, what are the frills? If we've got the basic function of human movement and function, the basic elements in place, what would we consider be, the 72-inch television and the drinks cabinet that plays music and lights up? I thought that was the epitome of frills when I was a kid, that somebody had a drinks cabinet like that. So what do I mean is that what is a bit optional, the optional extra, is a bit showy offy. If somebody is very flexible, for example, or bendy, is that functional flexibility? And what I mean by that is in order to achieve normal function, do they have to be that flexible? If I was a pole dancer that needed to put my leg up on a pole to do that for my living, then that degree of flexibility is part of my functional requirement. But if I just stretch because I like it, or because for no particular reason, we could say that this is extra function that has no direct bearing on my functional requirement. It's an optional extra. It's the drinks cabinet. Then we can also think of things as a function specific. In the terms of the functional room, a radio is a radio. It cannot produce a 3D image. In the same vein, being able to perform a perfect warrior pose is not going to make me a better trumpet player, and being able to bench press 200 kilos doesn't allow me to make a better margarita. Things are function specific, or they're not function specific. The things that will help me to throw a javelin are multi-layered and include mobility, strength, fitness, and so forth. And being able to tap dance isn't one of those layers, even if the dance training helps me to get fitter. Now, sometimes these boundaries are going to get muddled, and we don't always appreciate or understand our own functional range in much the same way as we never really appreciate our youth, which of course is wasted on the young. So I want to share with you a video that I made last year on this subject when I was around at my mother's house, and it's quite interesting to look at, because she's a very remarkable nearly 90-year-old woman, and from her perspective she feels that she's falling apart, she's got lots of problems, but in reality her functional range is really good. She's independent, and her mind and her tongue is as sharp as ever was. You often hear talk of the elderly and the burden on society, but really actually age isn't the issue here. Ill health is the burden on society, and in whatever age you happen to be, it doesn't make any difference. Simply being elderly doesn't necessarily have an impact or a bearing on health. You can be a healthy older person or an unhealthy younger person. If you're an unfit, unhealthy 55-year-old, then in short order you're going to turn into an unhealthy 75-year-old if you get that far, and then we can talk about burden. But it doesn't start when you get old. But that's another issue for another time. And for the moment, enjoy this glimpse at the force of nature that is my mother.
The rest of it fell apart. No, she died.
This is my mother. She's 89 years old.
And a half almost.
What are you, Adrian Mole? She's 89 years old, nearly.
Nearly.
Are you 90?
No, I'm 90 next year.
90 in May, so she's 89 and a half. And she objects when I call her robust. She's like a stevedore.
Just a minute, I haven't got my stick with me. I can't.
Oh, shut up. And she lives in this mansion of an apartment that isn't like sheltered accommodation. And the point about this, the point about that I'm trying to make, is that function is key. And if you've got function, and alongside function you've got attitude, then the world's your oyster. And she complains that the doctor won't see her. Look at her, there's nothing wrong with her.
There's a lot wrong with me.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? Well, I can't tell you on that thing, it's public.
What's wrong with you?
Oh,
that's function, look, function.
I've got bad knees, I can't walk.
Oh, bad knees. You're nearly 90, for Christ's sake. How far do you want to walk?
Good over there, she's 94 and she walks around like 50-year-old. She makes me cross.
Yeah, but they're the ones that aren't dead.
Well, I'm not dead yet.
Precisely.
Give me time.
So this is the thing. She had a fall. I'll show you where she had a fall. She wasn't like a little old lady fall. It wasn't some kind of random little old lady form. It wasn't like she fell over because she's all frail and frail and sweet like some sweet little old lady. That's not a sweet little old lady.
I'm not a sweet.
She was
little
climbing
lady.
on a ladder.
I'm a little old lady, but I'm not sweet. I know I have been sweet.
You've always been a midget, so shush. And she was climbing up a ladder to shut that window. It wasn't like she was on a frame and she fell off the curb or something like that. And then she bounced, I mean, you know, banged her head, and then she bounced back again. And it didn't shut her up for a second.
You did what?
Shut you up. Did it really?
Oh, it's a bloody good job, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
How do you like our
Oh, this is
carbon,
great. This
our
is where
carbon footprint.
This is where she watches the whole world go by. And she'll
Absolutely.
look at her out there. There we go. Let's have a little look. Who's winding you up today then?
Nobody particularly. Nobody particularly. No.
What?
Is he coming
What?
the right way?
What?
Nobody's winding me up particularly. Just not seeing anybody in my family for 11 weeks.
She's not even Jewish. You wouldn't believe it, would you?
That's
Even
where I fell off.
Catholic.
I fell off a little ladder like that out there.
This
What
little
little
ladder.
ladder? That
This
little
little
ladder.
ladder. Unbelievable. Anyway,
It's
not
all the
robust.
local authority's fault.
She's not robust. She's all frail and old and sweet. And look at her.
Oh,
look,
give off.
Butter wouldn't melt
No, butter wouldn't melt.
in her mouth, would it, dear?
Oh dear.
It would just be.
I'll take
it
my
would
teeth
just
out
be-
in a minute.
it
Oh
would-
look, I
butter,
have a pink head.
But butter would just be fuel to the dragon flames. That's what they used to call her where she used to work the dragon, didn't they? Function is a daily change. The thing about
I
function,
ache.
yeah, the function is going to change on a day-to-day basis. She aches. Well, okay, that can change. But at the moment, her function requirement is to stay at home and to be in her own apartment and to, you know, give out a load of shit to everybody when it's needed and to do the other stuff that needs to do. So that will change. It's different from what it was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, no, it's probably the same 25, 30 years ago. But function is a daily requirement, and we shouldn't try and put it into specific baskets or specific things that say this is what you should be able to do or shouldn't be able to do functionally. There you go. That's my mother. I'd say I'd film her more, but we're not going to do that. Come on, hurry up.
I do this now for some reason or other. One foot in front of the other.
Instead of head first.
Instead of head first. Oh, very funny.
You never use a stair lift, do you?
I put my shopping on it. When I walk up the stairs and bring all the shopping up.
So as we've seen, function is alive and well, and it's called my mother, Mrs. Baker. But personally, I would be delighted to get to 90 and be as lively and cheeky and full of life as she is at that age. And I do reserve to be as cantankerous as that as well. But so. There we go. What does function mean to you? How do you define it? Has it changed for you over the years or the months or the weeks? And you know, what's an important function? How would you define your own key elements as far as function is concerned? What is extra functional for you? So let me know. Put your comments down below in the box. Thank you very much for all the comments. I do appreciate them. I always read them and respond to them. And so thank you for those. And again, please like, subscribe, do all those things you're supposed to do on social media. And I will see you next time.